Hello, my friends. It's me, Bible Class Betty. Well, today's story might look peaceful on the outside, but it's packed with sneaky choices, stolen idols, and a tribe on the move. We're diving into Judges chapter 17 and 18, where one man's idea of worship, takes a wrong turn, and the consequences ripple across Israel. Well, before we dive into today's lesson, we need to take a moment to look at our vocabulary. You see, the Bible uses words that, we might not hear anymore, or sometimes they mean something quite different than what we're used to. So, let's make sure we understand them first. That way, the message will be even clearer. Let's get started. Asheroth. Asheroth. Well, Asheroth was a false goddess of the Sidonians. Why, it's like a female Baal. Asheroth. Captive. Captive. You probably know this one. Why, it's taken or held prisoner, especially in war. Carved image. Why, that seems simple enough. It would be an object of worship that's been carved out, usually from wood or stone. It's a fancy term for an idol. Ephod. Ephod. Why, that comes around a lot in the Old Testament because it was an item of clothing, much like a tunic, worn by the high priest when performing his duties. It was an elaborate piece of decorated fabric with gold and other expensive materials. Why, if you want to know more about it, you can read in Exodus 28 and Exodus chapter 39. They describe this ephod and its 12 jewels in detail. Our next word is restore. Restore. Why, that would be to bring back or return a possession. Restore. How about the word scout? We saw this back in Jericho. Remember, it's to explore an area or to find out about a people group living somewhere. We're going to scout it out. That's what those spies went to do. How about a silversmith? Why, right there in the name tells us part of what he does. A silversmith would be a person who works with silver to shape and to mold objects. Silversmith. Sojourn. We've met a lot of sojourners in our lessons. A sojourner is someone who might stay as a temporary resident while they're traveling along, or they might sojourn to another area to live as a temporary resident. Welfare. Welfare. Well, that's the state of doing well, especially in relation to your well-being. All right, well, today we're going to meet Micah. He wants to honor God, but instead of following God's instruction, he builds his own version of religion. What could go wrong? Maybe we should take a look. Say Shibboleth, the Israelites yell. 42,000 Ephraimites die in Judges 12. No wine, dead bodies, or haircuts is the Nazirite routine. Samson is born in Judges 13. A lion's carcass is definitely unclean. Samson uses it for a riddle in Judges 14. Crops destroyed belonging to the Philistine by foxes with torch tails in Judges 15, all tied up and his head shaved clean. Samson has his final revenge in Judges 16. Oh, well, we're not given a lot of historical information about Judges 17, but it begins to mark a shift from military deliverance, to spiritual confusion. Remember, we've read Israelite was doing whatever was right in their own eyes. Why, their moral decline and religious disorder during that time of the judges, it was awful. Well, this lesson will introduce Micah's homemade shrine, a wandering Levite, and revealing how far the people have strayed away from God's law. Well, most of this lesson is going to take place in the hill country of Ephraim. That's where Micah and his mother lived. Well, we will meet in this lesson Micah, remember, a man from Ephraim who created that shrine. And we're going to meet a young Levite. Micah hires this young Levite to work in his shrine. This story will show us what happens when people follow their own ideas instead of God's truth. It's a reminder that worshiping God isn't about what feels right, it's about what is right. Open up your Bibles to chapter 17 of the book of Judges. Now, the events in the rest of the book of Judges don't follow chronological order, but they're stories of events that took place during the time of this period that have been tagged at the end of the book. In fact, this chapter looks back at chapter 1 when the Amorites had a tight grip on the territory allotted to the tribe of Dan. Why, the people of Dan are so afraid that they're hiding out in the hills. The people of Dan are complaining that they have been cheated out of their inheritance. Oh, I don't think so. God said he would give them victory if they followed his commands. I think I know why they don't have their land. But let's read. Oh, do you see my Bible, friends? It's got lots of colors in it. Well, the colors help us understand what we're reading. Why, the words in blue, they show us the names of people. And the words in green point us to places or cities. The words highlighted in yellow are quotes. Those are, people speaking. And if you see words in red, that means God is speaking. Isn't that special? Now that we know what we're looking for, let's begin reading verse 1 together. Our heading is Micah and the Levite. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse and also spoke it to my ears, behold, the silver is with me. I took it. And his mother said, blessed be my son by the Lord. Hold up. Micah stole from his mother, and then she uttered a curse against the thief who stole from her. Keep in mind, 10 shekels would be, a year's wages. And he stole 1,100 shekels. Well, Micah offers to return the money rather than risk the disaster of his mother's curse. And when he confesses, she says, bless you, my son? I guess because he finally told the truth. It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Well, we'll keep reading in Verse 3. Then he, that'd be Micah, restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, "Oh, I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand to my son, to go make a carved image. Oh, and a metal image too. And therefore I will restore it to you." So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to a silversmith who made it into a carved image and a metal image. And it was in the house of Micah. Micah's mother decides to celebrate the money's return by creating an image of a false god. After all, this should please the Lord. Really? This strange idea of creating an idol to please God illustrates the confusion of the times. The Israelites had become a mixture of pagan idolatry combined with the elements of true worship. Well, verse 5, and the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household gods, and ordained one of his sons who became a priest. Wait a minute. Hold up. I thought only Levites could be priests. Can Micah ordain his own priest? Why can't he have a shrine? I thought that's what idol worshippers had. Oh, maybe I missed something. Let's keep reading in verse 6. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Oh, that explains it. Micah tries to remember everything when setting up his little shrine. Why, to go along with an idol that his mom had. Why, he might need an ephod. He remembers something about an ephod. I bet a priest would be handy. So I have a son. Now I have a priest. Notice right after the statement of Micah having his sanctuary in his backyard, it is followed with the statement that there was no leadership in Israel. It suggests that Micah made such ridiculous errors because there was no one to take notice that they had deviated so far from God's laws. There was no one to judge whether an action was good or bad, and no one held the people to a higher standard. Well, now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, the family of Judah, who was actually, a Levite. And he sojourned there. He traveled there. And the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judah to sojourn where he could find a place. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And the Levite says to Micah, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah. I am going to sojourn where I might find a place." And Micah said to him, "Stay with me and be a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year and a suit of clothes for your living." And the Levite went in. The Levitical cities were scattered among the lands of the various tribes, but Bethlehem was not one of them. And apparently the Levites had scattered and were no longer living in the land God had specified for them. This Levite should have been involved in the work of the temple and not wandering throughout the country. When Micah offers him a job, he accepts. Micah hires this young man to be his spiritual father. Oh, wait, he had one of those. God! Oh, and he offers this Levite to serve as in Micah's shrine. And the Levite, apparently not knowing any better, says okay. And the Levite was content to dwell with the man. And the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest and was in the house of Micah. And Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me, because I have a Levite as a priest." Micah didn't have the authority to install a priest, and the Levite did not have the right to accept the position. The only Levites who were supposed to serve as the priest were the descendants of Aaron. Now, in chapter 18, verse 30, we'll find out that the priest's name was Jonathan, and that he's the son of Gershom, a grandson of Moses. He was not at all in the priestly line because the priest came from Aaron's line. I also don't really like that in verse 13, why Micah says, "Now the Lord will prosper me." Was he doing all this because he thought it was a good luck charm? Let's see if we've got a rhyme to help us remember what happens in chapter 17. Micah has a shrine like no one has ever seen. He makes a Levite his priest in Judges 17. Well, our story continues in chapter 18, where Micah and his Levite priests lived in the hill country of Ephraim. The Danites conquered the land of Laish and renamed it Dan, just north of the Sea of Galilee. See our map right here? Well, let's look at chapter 18. Who will we meet? Well, of course, the young Levite's still there, and Micah and his mom, but this chapter will introduce some of the Danites. Verse 1, Danites take the Levite and the idol? Oh, this should be good. Let's get going. In those days, there was no king in Israel. And in those days, the tribe of the people of Dan were seeking for itself an inheritance to dwell in. For until then, no inheritance among the tribe of Israel had fallen for them. So the people of Dan sent 5 able men from the whole number of their tribe, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and explore it. And they said to them, "Go, explore the land." And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and they lodged or stayed there. Because Dan had never claimed their land, instead they retreated to the hills, and now those 5 spies are being sent out to find a new home. Well, as the spies pass through the land of Ephraim, they end up spending the night at Micah's house. Now, if you'll remember again, the people of Dan would have their own land and their own country because God had given it to them. They just didn't trust God to let them take the land. They got all scared and went and hid in the hill country. Let's continue in verse 3. Now, when they were by the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and they turned aside and said to him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is your business here?" And the Levite said to them, "This is how Micah dealt with me. He's hired me, and I've become his priest." And they said to him, "Inquire of God, please, that we may know whether the journey on which we're setting out will succeed." And the priest said to them, Go in peace. The journey on which you go is under the eye of the Lord. Well, the spies either knew the Levite man from a previous encounter, or they recognized him maybe from his dialect as being from a different tribe. Discovering that Jonathan is a priest, they ask him to tell them their fortune. Again, this is another indicator of how far the people of Israel have strayed from God's instructions. Now, notice the Bible does not record that the priest Jonathan ever asked God before he assures them that the Lord is aware of their journey. Verse 7. Then the 5 men departed, and they came to Laish. They saw the people who were there, and how they lived in security, after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing that is in the earth, and possessing wealth, and how they were far from the Sidonians, and had no dealings with anyone. Laish was a city filled with people from the city of Sidon. Because of the location was sheltered and remote, the people of Laish saw, well, no need to maintain a high level of security. From all appearances, the city would be an easy target. And when they came to their brothers at Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers said to them, "What is your report?" And they said, "Arise, let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go and enter to possess the land. And as soon as you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is spacious, for God has given it into your hands, a place there where there is no lack of anything on the earth." Well, the report from the spies is good news. They found a spacious land that they can easily take. Did you read any part of that where they asked God what he wanted them to do? Seems to me like God had already told them what to do. Take that land that they didn't conquer. Well, verse 11. So 600 men of the tribe of Dan, armed with weapons of war, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol, and they went up and encamped at Kerith Jearim in Judah. On this account, that place is called Mahana Dan to this day. Behold, it is west of Kerith Jearim. And they passed on from there to the hill country of Ephraim. And they came to the house of, you guessed it, Micah. 600 men from the tribe of Dan are headed to the hill country of Laish. On the way, the men camp near Micah's house. I wonder if they'll notice Micah's shrine. Verse 14. Then the 5 men who had gone out to scout out the country of Laish said to their brothers, "Do you know that in these houses there's an ephod, household gods, there's a carved image, and a metal image? Now therefore, consider what you will do." Kind of picture a wink, wink. And they turned aside there and came to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah. And they asked him about his welfare. Think of that. "How you doing? Good to see you." Now, the 600 men of the Danites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate. And the 5 men who had gone to scout out the land went and entered, and they took the carved image, remember, made of silver, and the ephod with all those valuable stones and gems. They took the household god's metal image, while the priest stood at the entrance of the gate, with the 600 armed guards with weapons of war. Those original 5 spies go and tell the rest of those Danites about Micah's shrine and all the wealth and the loot that's inside, and then go, do what you want. So the men stop and talk to the priest, while those 5 men run in to Micah's shrine and steal everything. Verse 18. And when these went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods, the metal image, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said to him, "Shh, keep quiet. Put your hand in your mouth and come with us. Be our father and our priest. Why, is it better for you to be the priest to just one man, or to the priest of an entire tribe of the clan of Israel?" Oh, brother, and the priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod, the household gods, the carved image, and went with the people. When the priest figures out what's going on, he is surprised. But when he sees an opportunity for improved employment, why, he just agrees to go with the men of Dan. Again, has anybody asked God what to do? No. Verse 21. So they turned and they departed, putting the little ones and the livestock and the goods in front of them. And when they had gone a distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the house near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the people of Dan. And they shouted to the people of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you, that you've come along with such a company?" And he said, "You take my gods that I made and the priests and go away, and what have I have left? How then do you ask me, what's the matter with you?" And the people of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows fall upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of those in your household." Then the people of Dan went their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned back to his home. So picture the Danites have put their most valuable possessions in front of them, and they continue on their journey. But meanwhile, Micah gathers some of his sympathetic neighbors together and takes off after them. The Danites ask him, "What's wrong?" And Micah replies, "Why, you've taken my gods and my priest." The Danites replied to Micah that he'd better stop pursuing them, or one of the Danites, might get really angry and turn around and kill him. So Micah just returns home. Well, verse 27. But the people of Dan took what Micah had made and the priest who belonged to him, and they came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, and they struck them with the edge of the sword and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. And it was the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. Then they rebuilt the city and they lived there. Why, the people of Laish had no idea when they woke up that it was their last day. By evening, they were under attack, and the Danites burned their homes and put their entire households to death by the sword. And they named the city Dan, after the name of Dan, their ancestor, who was born in Israel. But the name of the city was Laish at first. And the people of Dan set up a carved image for themselves. And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. So they set up Micah's carved image and he had made as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. So the Danites had renamed this city after their father Dan. The location will be the northernmost border of the promised land. And that's where the phrase from Dan to Beersheba comes from. With the stolen priest and idols, the tribe of Dan set up their place of worship. The Danite shrine remained there until Israel went into Assyrian captivity. Oh, and so as not to confuse this idol sanctuary with the actual place of worship, we are reminded the actual tabernacle of the Lord was at Shiloh, not in Dan. Oh, well, did you also notice why this Jonathan, who's the son of Gershom, the son of Moses in verse 30, this is Moses' grandson. If anyone should have known the teachings of the Lord, wouldn't it be the man who had the grandfather who God spoke directly to him face to face? Oh, my friends, this is terribly sad. Well, Judges 17 and 18 were a whirlwind. We went Micah, who tried to make his own version of worship, the tribe of Dan, who took his idol and priest like they were shopping for blessings. Here's the big lesson. Worshiping isn't something we invent, it's something we receive from God. This story is during a time of sheer anarchy in Israel. We have Micah the Ephraim steal from his mom, and after confessing, his mom has an idol to Yahweh build. What? Oh, this is the first of many instances where people show a lack of awareness of God's law. Micah then set up a temple in his own house, ordaining his son, who was not a Levite, as a priest. This secondary holy site is wicked and defiant. And when Micah meets a Levite named Jonathan, Micah hires him to use God for his own selfish gain. It is good that Micah wants to know God, but he goes about it in ways that dishonor God. It doesn't go well for Micah, and it will never go well for us either. Let's see if there's a rhyme to help us remember chapter 18. The Danites rob Micah clean, stealing his idol and priest in Judges 18. Well, my friends, there isn't many things that are funny in this story, but I found you one cartoon I'd like to share. Oh, look, the dyslexic artist builds a statue to the unknown God. I don't know if you know, but that statue is a statue of dog, and a dyslexic person usually gets their letters backwards. So instead of a dog, it was supposed to be God because he got it backwards. That's the closest thing to anything funny in this story I could find. Now, if you're in my class this week, you need to be working on your study guide questions for Judges chapters 9 and 10. And don't forget to keep working on those chapter heading cards. Why, all of the chapter heading cards for Joshua. And now we should be up to the chapter heading cards in Judges from Judges chapter 1 to 18. Oh, Micah thought having a Levite and a silver statue would bring him favor, but he missed the point. God doesn't want fancy shrines or shortcuts. He wants our hearts, our obedience, and our trust. So remember, my friends, when we follow God's way, not our own, we find real peace and purpose. Let's be worshipers who listen, love, and live by His truth, not just what feels good or looks shiny. Until next week, my friends, bye.